trying something new and chatting about some recent VR news. First up, Beat Saber has shared some more details about a brand new feature they have teased, and that is sliders. If you've been around the modding community for a while, you'll know that sliders already exist. It's essentially a line of stacked notes, but it looks like Beat Saber are now releasing their own official version. There's 3 new block types coming to Beat Saber, and the lead level creator at Beat Saber recently did a live stream going into more detail. The first block is not really a big deal, but it's diagonal dots. You're already probably familiar with the dot block, which can essentially be sliced in any angle, but coming soon, these blocks will be able to be placed diagonally, so that kind of just adds more flow and fluidity to the maps. Not really a big deal, but cool to see, and I'm sure the mappers will appreciate it. And then they teased something kind of unexpected, and that is these slider lines. And it seems they appear in the path before or after a block, and this isn't something we've seen before. Freak in his live stream says that these are just a guide and representation of the music. So they don't add anything to scoring, but they do vibrate when you hold over them, but there's no additional sound effects. And you don't have to use them, nor do they add any difficulty. They're mostly there as a guide, but it appears they have like a slight magnetic effect, so when you lift your sabers up, they'll kind of follow you, which I think will look pretty cool. It turns out this feature has been in production for over 2 years, so it's really cool that they took the time to really work on this and making sure it's really polished before integrating into the game. I think they definitely look cool and will add a lot of value to the gameplay. My only issue is that they've named them sliders, and in the modding community, sliders is the name of the stacked notes you may have seen. But speaking of those sliders, Beat Saber have essentially announced their own version of those sliders, except they're called burst sliders. Instead of having a line of stacked blocks, they've introduced these burst sliders that are stacked split blocks. It kind of looks like one big block that's been kind of all cut into pieces. And it looks like these can be quite long, using up the whole path and even utilizing outside the grid as well. And at the beginning of the Beat Saber teaser, we kind of see a tongue-in-cheek joke where we have the modding community sliders coming towards you and they're like, and then they showcase the new burst sliders and the slider line effect thing. I think those names are going to get really confusing, but maybe the custom community will adopt their own names for it. So these are some cool new features coming to Beat Saber. Freak did say it wouldn't be long till we get to play them, so hopefully we can check it out soon. In other news, Oculus is dead. But don't worry, your Quest is fine. It's the name and branding to do with Oculus that is officially gone. We all saw the announcement a few months back where Facebook announced they are rebranding to Meta to be in line with the whole Metaverse thing. And to be honest, I don't blame them. Like, Facebook doesn't have a great reputation, so I understand their reasoning to wanting to rebrand. But Oculus is already pretty established and has a lot of brand loyalty. So it feels like such a waste to rebrand it, and I'd really just struggle to understand why they chose to rebrand the Oculus name, or at least why didn't they wait until there was a new headset to rebrand. Like, it just feels really messy right now. And even yesterday, comedian Kevin James was on Jimmy Fallon talking about his Quest headset, and he just kept referring to it as the Oculus. And even Jimmy Fallon calls it the Oculus. Like, Oculus has a lot of brand recognition, and I don't understand why they had to rebrand it. But there's nothing we can do. We're just gonna have to embrace this new name change. I'll probably mess it up a few times, and I know many people will probably get really confused about it. But for now, I'm just gonna call it the Quest 2. In terms of game releases, Hitman 3 came out last week for PC VR, and it did not get received well. I personally haven't seen it, but I've seen a few reviews and gameplay clips from a few people, and it looks very buggy. Doesn't look like it's been optimized for VR at all, really, and doesn't look like it's got a lot of controller support. I think a lot of objects you can't interact with, and I've just seen people not being able to like complete missions correctly because things just aren't working. That's really disappointing. I love the Hitman series, and I was really looking forward to playing it on PC VR. But now I just decided not to buy it. But I'm just really hoping this doesn't deter them from making future Hitman games in VR, because I think that'll be really cool. It's just a shame that these big AAA companies think they can just easily slap on some VR stuff and not really optimize it correctly, and it just kind of feels like a cash grab. And we've kind of seen that with a few other AAA games, so I really hope that doesn't become a trend and these game companies are learning lessons from this, that, you know, you really need to optimize and create games for VR. You can't just quickly smash it all together and hope you have a good VR game. But in terms of recent releases, it was a really big day for VR yesterday with the release of Zenith. Zenith is an MMORPG, which means it's a mass multiplayer online game, and it's available on all platforms, and I believe it has crossplay as well, which is a really ambitious thing to do, especially for VR, let alone PC. I did check out the game in beta, and the game is very impressive, but unfortunately, I'm not a fan of MMOs, so you won't see me jumping in again, but it was still really impressive. It is a very ambitious game, and from my experience playing in beta, it was great, but like all online game launches, they've had some hiccups with their servers, which unfortunately has led to some very unhappy customers. It appears some people weren't able to log in, or they're having to queue to join, which can be a really frustrating experience. But unfortunately, these things do happen, and they are quite a trend to happen with big MMO game launches. I think it's really exciting that there's a lot of hype and excitement about a new VR title. And even though some people, I think, were disappointed by the experience, the general consensus is that they're loving Zenith, and hopefully the game developers will get those server issues resolved shortly. So another game that launched recently is Wanderer. This game is a PC VR title, or PSVR, and it's a time traveling kind of escape room style game. And I played this yesterday and I absolutely love it. Like, the graphics are so impressive, and it's made by an indie studio. So a small team made this game, and let me tell you, it is like AAA quality. I definitely have feelings of like I was playing Half-Life Alyx when playing this, and it's definitely really impressive, very ambitious game, and I can't wait to dive in and play a bit more. Not only were the graphics impressive, the voice acting was really good, and the puzzles were really enjoyable. I did get stuck for a little bit, but yeah, I really enjoy kind of working stuff out, and there's lots of really fun elements to the game. I do believe some people were having issues playing on Oculus Quest on PC, so if you are having those issues, the devs have addressed it and say they are working on it to try and fix them, so just be aware of that when you are playing. But I know other people who didn't have any issues. But aside from that, I think this is definitely a must-play game for PC VR, and definitely worth checking out. I think it's just so crazy that these small indie studios are producing games of this level when you compare it to like Hitman, which is a massive game franchise, and it just does not compare. So congrats on the team to this accomplishment. Really great game. In terms of Quest releases, the game Lost Recipes launched yesterday, and I feel like I've seen zero marketing for this. Like, I went to check the store and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know this was out. So I was surprised to see it on the store. So this game is kind of a cooking game, which I think's been a little bit overdone. But the spin on this one is that you're making foods from ancient civilizations, which I think is pretty interesting. So you make foods from like ancient Chinese recipes or the Mayan temple. And I think that really adds a real educational element to the game. Reviews for this game are pretty good, and I'll probably check it out because even though I say this genre is overdone, I'm a sucker for this genre. I love food, cooking games in VR, so I'll definitely be checking this one out. And let me know in the comments if you're thinking of picking this one up too. Now, if you're an art fan, the game Open Brush is fully released. It's kind of a newer version of Tilt Brush, because Tilt Brush went into open source, which means people can adapt the game and people in the community can add things to it. So if you're into doing art in VR, and there's some amazing examples of this, Open Brush may be of interest. But there's also Multi-Brush that launched on Quest as well. Multi-Brush is essentially the same thing, but you can do it with friends, which I think is really cool. I think if you are the creative type who does like to do art, I think if you could work on a piece together with your friends would be really cool, or just maybe a cool way to hang out. But yeah, that's it in terms of VR news this week. Let me know if you like this type of videos. I'm all for trying new things lately, so let me know if you enjoyed it. Leave a like so I know, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!